Welcome to Asking for a Friend. This week we're with John Walker from Keller Williams. Let's just start by telling the internet about yourself.
Well, like I said, my name's John Walker. I am the owner of the John Walker Real Estate Group here in Spokane. We have a small team based out of Keller Williams with a few buyer's agents, myself as a listing agent, and then we have a transaction coordinator.
So are there certain areas in town that you either do more business in or like doing business in?
Yeah, I would say I probably do a lot more business in Shadle and the Indian Trail area here than other areas.
What are the homes like there for someone that doesn't know that area?
Well, especially Shadle, you got a lot of 1940s, 1950s homes. Right now, that price point just seems to be moving really quickly, and that's a very popular area because of price point.
And so, like, are some of those homes, would they be, are a lot of them updated, or do they need updated for buyers and those kind of things?
Yeah, no, some of them, some of them do have some updates that have been done, and a lot of that will determine the price of the home. But yeah, there's still probably a few selected homes in that area that need to update a few things.
So let's talk about, you're a listing agent. Let's talk about some of the challenges that sellers may face, because obviously they need to have a next home. What are some of the challenges a market like this, which is a seller's market, creates?
Well, several challenges. The exciting thing for sellers is that the inventory is low, so their homes are probably going to sell quickly if priced correctly, and probably more than what they listed it for. The hard part is finding where to go after that. So It's very hard in this market to have sellers want to take contingent offers on the buyer's home selling. But it depends on where you're at in the process.
Right. So are you seeing some sellers like holding back, saying like, I'm not selling because I can't find a home?
Yeah, it's a common seller objection that we get is they're scared that if they sell their home, they're not going to have anywhere to go. Even though they want to sell, they want to move, there's a little bit of a fear there that holds them back from doing so. So what we do is not only do we comfort them and let them know that we will be able to get them through the whole process, but my agents are trained to try to create inventory for those sellers.
Okay. So what obviously you talked about creating inventory. What are some of the other things that they, like as the seller, they can kind of do to create a better, an easier transition to a new home?
Yeah, I think in a market like this, it gets very difficult to get all your wants and needs when you're looking, just because there's not a lot of inventory. My suggestion to a seller is, if you're gonna sell, be committed to sell and have a plan. If you can't find a home, do you get an apartment? Do you move in with a family member? But have a plan. Be all in, because I think it'll benefit you.
Right. Okay, so contingent offers are an issue, obviously, for buyers. What are the options they have to make it non-contingent when they do need to sell their home before they buy the next one?
Well, if they need to sell the home, then they need to be creative with their offers. And a lot of ways they can do that is either just selling their home, committing to a lease for 6 months, and then purchasing.
Okay.
One thing I always tell sellers is you're less likely to make a bad decision if you're not pressured. And that helps eliminate some of the pressure. Also, there's rent back situations to where if the seller needs time to find a new place to live, then the buyer and the seller can come to terms on a rent agreement for a few, 2-3 months, whatever it may be.
And then obviously, like, the sellers may have the same thing, right? Like the sellers may need time to find a house, so there may be like just getting together and communicating as trying to put a deal together.
Absolutely. Some of the challenges for buyer and sellers could be very similar.
So I think in terms of like contingencies on just making it a blanket contingent, a non-contingent deal, those are awesome. One of the things I've seen with my clients is down payment is the issue, right? They have a little bit of down, but when they sell their house, they're going to make a bunch of money and want to put that towards the next one.
Absolutely.
There is a one-time principal reduction that I'm starting to do with a lot of clients that's out there. So ask your lender about that. What I want to ask you next is how do you, when you're trying to sell your home, how do you manage finding the next one? Like, how do you manage that whole process?
Yeah, so it's a challenge, obviously. Like we've talked about, it's definitely the agent's job to help through this whole process. And I think if they start the process to look to see what's out there before they really commit to sell, it kind of takes a little bit of the ease off. They may not see what they're looking for in that search, so that might make them more hesitant to sell their house.
Right.
But it also can give them a peace of mind if they do start seeing some of the homes that are, that they can attract to and that meet their wants and needs.
Right. So it's now all of a sudden your home's on the market. You need to find a home. What's the time crunch like? How does that affect the process?
Well, there's a lot of working parts, obviously, in any transaction, but in a situation like that, things move a lot faster. People are going to be piling into their home to see it. Most likely, they're going to have some offers in the first weekend, which puts a lot of pressure on the seller to find that home.
Right.
So it's the agent. We just need to make sure that we're getting them the information right away. If there's a new home that meets their criteria, they need to see it right away because time is of the essence in this type of a market.
Yeah, I know that in a standard transaction, when you're just like a buyer from a seller, you're managing you as an agent or whoever in the transaction, there's 13 people. And now that there's 2 homes involved, think about all the people. So I think the big thing is like, one, make sure you're using the same agent for both sides. And if it is a team, that it's a team and that they're organized. I think that's huge because like now all of a sudden there's just so many people involved, and that's where mistakes happen when communication breaks down. All right, so we've been trying to avoid the contingent offers. How do you make you don't have a choice? Like your offer has to be contingent. How do you make that? How do you get an offer accepted that way?
Well, it can be a challenge, but there are things I believe a buyer can do to make their offer appealing, even though there's a contingency of them having to sell their house. A lot of times a nice letter written to the seller from the buyer, or even the lender reaching out to the listing agent to let them know that they've had underwritten approval. But making an offer appealing to a seller, there's a lot of other factors. I think the communication with the list agent is huge. We're in a communication business. The buyer agent needs to reach out to the listing agent to ask them what's important to their seller other than the money aspect, because sometimes there are a lot of things, and limiting your contingency for your home inspection days, not adding a bunch of contingencies that make the transaction more difficult already on top of the contingent offer.
Yeah, I think the big thing, like you said, is contingent. Having the lender like do as much work up front, I think that's huge. Like the amount of work you need, especially when you're selling and managing all the money moving around, you gotta be planned ahead.
Absolutely, and from a listing standpoint, when we do receive offers and letters and I'm receiving calls from lenders, we're also asking questions and making sure that the seller has all that information.
Right.
So when they decide what offer they want to take, we want to make sure they know every in and out of every offer.
So we always ask where, because we want people outside of the area that are watching this to get to know Spokane. Where's your favorite place to grab something to eat or drink in Spokane?
Well, I live up in Meade, so I kind of stay closer to home. But McLean's Pizzeria is amazing. They great atmosphere, great service, great food. So we like to go there quite often just to hang out.
Perfect. What do you get when you're there?
Buffalo chicken cheese bread is amazing.
That sounds delicious.
Oh, it is. It is.
So thanks for joining us today. Tell the people where they can find you.
Well, you can reach out to us on Facebook at the John Walker Real Estate Group, or you can call my team number, which is 509-956-4779. And somebody should always answer the call, and you can get a hold of anyone on my team.
Perfect. We'll see you next week on Asking for a Friend.